Canadian blood plasma products can be sold abroad for profit by pharma giants. How'd this never made it to the front pages of any of the newspapers or been the subject on global news or CTV or CBC?
Disrupt America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. This story is really alarming, folks. So I don't know if anyone watching this or you know someone that frequently donates blood through the Canadian Blood Services. You're going to want to pay attention to this because this shocked me. So Mario Zelia first pointed this out, saying, breaking, this is the mother of all betrayals. Canadian Blood Services is providing Canadian donated plasma to Grifols, a foreign-owned entity, to then be sold for profit. So I was under the impression, much like anyone else, to think that Canadian Blood Services, when you donated blood, that blood was going to a Canadian patient in need. That's kind of the purpose of these services. That's kind of the purpose of donating blood. So that if someone was in a car crash or a critical injury or they needed a transfusion, that they were able to access an amount of blood supply donated by Canadians to keep that person alive a bit longer. But what Mario Zelia is pointing out is that the Canadian Blood Services is hollowing that out to serve to a multinational drug maker. I don't even have the words to even explain how devastating that sounds. And more devastating that this isn't making national attention. I get that wildfires are important. I get that there's other things going on. How'd this never made it to the front pages of any of the newspapers or been the subject on global news or CTV or CBC is beyond me. But here, Mario Zella is going to point this out. By the way, that same company that says our generous donation is given to a foreign entity to profit off us. In addition, get this, Brookfield has been attempting to acquire the company that's selling off your blood, further enriching Mark Carney in the process. So Brookfield Asset Management that Mark Carney used to run before obtaining prime ministership, they want to buy out this drug-making company that's selling off plasma that Canadians are lied to about donating it. Isn't that something? So here's Mark Zelia. This is a short little video they put together explaining this.
Give me 30 seconds. I'm going to blow your mind. Have you guys ever donated blood to the Canadian Blood Services? Well, I was today years old when I found out that the Canadian Blood Services here is using your Canadian donated blood to be utilized by this company that then resells it for a profit. This might honestly be one of the biggest scandals of the year. Free and donated Canadian blood, scratch that, it's plasma, is being resold for a profit. You get nothing. In fact, members of Parliament of the Conservative Party just wrote a scathing letter. And it gets better. It says that the Globe and Mail reported exactly what I just showed you, and despite a 2022 pledge from the Canadian Blood Services that plasma collected from Canadians would be sold offshore. That pledge was made by the CEO back in 2022. And this is where it gets interesting. Equally as troubling is the fact that Brookfield Asset Management has been working to acquire that company, Grifols, for over the past year. Brookfield made a multi-billion-dollar takeover bid for the company in late 2024 and was again to be reported in contact with shareholders regarding an acquisition in April 2025.
So, according to this MP of Parliament that's asking for investigation, this has gone as far back as 2022, that the Canadian Blood Services, your donation, is being sold out to a private entity overseas that they're selling off for profit. And now Brookfield is trying to make a multi-million-dollar acquisition of that company. Again, how this never made mainstream attention is insane. It's insane. How this not become the leading story on national news with Omar Sajidina or national news with Donna Friesen. How this never made mainstream attention is beyond me. How I'm finding this now in August of 2025 is crazy. It's crazy.
Even if no acquisition has been made to date, this pattern signals Brookfield's ongoing desire to take control of a firm profiting from Canadian blood donations. Given Mark Carney's significant personal investments in Brookfield, we are further concerned about the Prime Minister's potential conflict of interest in this matter. And for those who don't know, Mark Carney has over $6.8 million in options in Brookfield alone. We don't even know how many shares he had before that or what other compensations he's had before those options. If I could estimate, it's easily in the 8 figures. And rightfully so, they said this raises 2 important questions. Why are foreign corporations such as Grifols profiting off of blood plasma donated by Canadians without their knowledge? And what would Mark Carney's finance...
I could probably answer that, because then Canadians would be angered, upset. They probably won't be donating more and more blood, and maybe ask for a share of that profit. We know that here in Canada, it's illegal to sell off, human donations like blood or semen. That's why you don't see sperm banks here in this country. It's very frequent in the United States, but here they made it illegal because they believe that someone donating their specimen, if you will, should not be sold for profit. Well, it turns out, according to the CEO of the Canadian Blood Services, we're just going to skip that part. We're just going to go completely behind the backs of our donors to sell for profit. And it's amazing to me because over the years, since childhood, since I can remember, there's always been PSAs talking about how they're desperate for blood donations, how they're searching out for certain types of blood, mostly O negative from what I remember. And they're more and more desperate because not enough Canadians are rolling up the sleeves to donate blood. Now with this, just the open betrayal of the people donating blood. Do you think that's going to increase blood donations? Do you think people are going to really roll up their sleeves to know that it's going to be sold off offshore to some private corporation they have no idea about? Or where the blood is going? I was thinking, I assumed that was going towards a patient in need. But apparently, that's not the case. Apparently, that's not the case. So, the Breach actually did an investigation, and this is coming from last year. This came from June of 2024. That they investigate this. Again, I find it amazingly shocking that I'm finding this out now, and this wasn't a major scandal in the news as it was happening. And it says Canadian blood plasma products can be sold abroad for profit by pharma giants. Letter from pharma giant Connected Advocate helps reveal blood plasma products from paid collection centers to be sold abroad by a Spanish company. Just think about that. Think about that. You're rolling up your sleeves, you're donating blood, thinking it's for the good of your country, good for the people affected that need this blood supply. They're telling you that there's short supply. Meanwhile, they're selling it abroad. And that's screwing over both the person donating the blood and the patients that are desperate for the blood. So you're screwing over the entire nation with this. A foreign multinational company can export Canadian blood plasma products for profit abroad, the Breach has learned. That flies in the face of what's being pledged by Canadian Blood Services as Grifols, the Spanish multinational corporation that is trying to open private plasma collection centers across Ontario and already operates in some other provinces. Grifols, the world's largest private plasma producer, had sworn that their products would be exclusively for Canadian Blood Services and Canadian patients. But the revelation that they can export products for sale overseas is the first window into a secret contract the company signed with Canada's Blood Authority in 2022 to allow them to pay for blood plasma. So they did a secret contract signing without your awareness, without your authority, without your confirmation to sell your donation to a multinational corporation and then sell that abroad. That is sinister. That is crazy. And like I said, I'm learning this now. This happened 2022. This happened years ago. And there wasn't hardly any mainstream attention. No one did an investigation. No one was concerned about this. The Canadian Blood Services is supposed to report back to the government. That was my understanding. But no, they did a secret contract. Public blood advocates and nurse unions have long said that if private companies were authorized to operate alongside the country's system of volunteer donations, they would end up selling plasma to the highest bidder on the international market. Plasma contains vital proteins, including antibodies and enzymes, used to develop treatments for, how do you say that? Hemophilia? I'm not even going to try. And neurological conditions. It has been grown into a $35 billion a year global sector. Wow. Imagine the profits if they incorporate that with, all the vaccines profit that they made the last how many years. I got to tell you, pharmaceuticals, if you want to be this multi-billionaire and not give a crap about anyone, that seems to be the place to go. Screw over everybody, make people sicker, make them die more, but you'll get $35 billion a year by this betrayal. Grifols hit a roadblock on Monday as Hamilton's Public Health Committee unanimously backed a resolution from Mayor Andrea Horwath to reject a planned Grifols collection center and declared the city a paid plasma-free zone. Horwath said that anything that preys upon the most vulnerable is hideous and doesn't belong in Hamilton. I hope she said that when she was looking in a mirror, because, speak for yourself. The revelation about the plasma giant was prompted by a letter sent by a Grifols-connected advocate to Hamilton City Council Committee as it deliberated over the resolution. In the letter, the executive director of patient advocacy group called Alpha One Canada called for Hamilton's collection center to go ahead to meet the needs of her patients. However, the type of plasma products that Grifols has said it would collect would not help Alpha One patients, implying that other kinds of lucrative plasma products may be processed. Grifols is a platinum sponsor of Alpha One Canada. I love how they add that in. And a platinum sponsor. Is it like a point system? Do they have to reach a certain amount before they get to gold status? A platinum sponsor. Like, it sounds like they're getting a credit card off of Alpha One. This is crazy. So here, this is from that MP. Mary Azalea pointed it out, but there's this is from the Honorable Hetty Fry, chair of the Standing Committee on Health of the House of Commons. And they wrote, because it was reported just recently in the Globe and Mail about this, and they're calling for an investigation. Again, I just find it insanely baffling This happened in 2022. And the Breach reported this in 2024. And I'm just finding about this now. Because nobody is reporting on this. Nobody's concerned that your donated blood is being sold off for profit to the highest bidder for God knows what. I was assuming that it went to patients. I was assuming I'm saving lives. That's what the PSAs keep reminding us of. But apparently, anyone can buy it. Wow. That is crazy. And here's also this. So, this is direct quote from the Globe and Mail. This is from their report. CBS, the Canadian Blood Services, not the network. CBS, a charity that runs the blood donation system everywhere in Canada but Quebec. Go figure. Or do you say Quebec? People say both, Quebec or Quebec. Announced in 2022 that would partner with Grifols to collect blood plasma. Grifols pays donors and makes its profit by processing and reselling their plasma, while CBS was founded as a voluntary donation system. So what that means to me is that they're not paying you. They're not paying you for your donation. So if you continue to use the Canadian Blood Services, you're still a volunteer. You're still volunteering to donate your blood. But because Canadian Blood Services can sell that blood to Grifols, they're the ones making profit off you. So Grifols is allowed to profit off you. The Canadian Blood Services is allowed to profit off you, but you can't. You can't. And it's illegal for anyone to be paid while voluntarily donating blood. This, like Mario Zella said, it's a complete betrayal. It's one of the most biggest betrayals I have seen, at least so far. That's wild. That is wild. And sadly, I've not seen a single person, nor mainstream outlet, even highlighting this. So maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one that cares. But just be warned. Just be warned. The next time you hear a PSA, the next time you think that, hey, I'm going to roll up my sleeve and do the right thing, just know where your blood is going towards. Because I was under the influence. I was assuming, because being a donation facility, you would think that goes towards people in need. You would think that, but no. Apparently, they're allowed to go around you, completely betray you, the people that are donating blood, and sell it off to a multinational drug-making company offshore on a completely different continent, and then sell that to the highest bidder internationally. Wow. What a disgusting betrayal from the Canadian Blood Services. And it's just so baffling. I wish I had better words to say, but it really is just baffling that they're able to get away with this. That no one is, more angry about this. No one's highlighting this. There isn't further calls for investigation. I've only seen that one MP trying to spark an investigation, but no one seems to care about this. They're trying to keep this undercover and hoping that more and more people will be suckered in to think that you're doing the right thing. Roll up your sleeves. It's in you to give. Well, this goes on. Insane. Hey, here at Kitz Corner, we want to thank you, our viewers and our subscribers that tune into Kitz Corner for the latest dives in trending news, political conspiracies, and the craziest of stories. However, being in this business isn't an easy job. Because we're independent, we can dive into stories that the mainstream outlets are afraid to do so. But unfortunately, that doesn't give us the luxury of big advertising or government subsidies. That's why we reach out to you. You can support Kitz Corner and get some cool new threads in the process. Say what? That's right, check out our merch store, where we have a big selection of t-shirts, mugs, stickers, sweaters, bags, and more. All with interesting designs too, like this True North Strong and Free. So if you want to show off your support, go to our website at kitzcorner.net. That's kitzcorner.net. And click the store link at the top of the screen. Or you can scan the QR code provided on screen to get instant access to our merch store. Your support makes a huge difference at what we do here. So why not wear your support too? So go to kitzcorner.net or scan the QR code on your screen to get to our one-of-a-kind Kitz Corner merchandise store. Thank you.